After nearly 2 decades without a new original 2D Metroid game, Metroid Dread is finally here and it's absolutely incredible. Samus is back and she's here to prove that she still has the best games in this genre. Dread is the perfect evolution of the 2D Metroid formula, and it brings this classic series into the modern age of gaming. This video won't have any major spoilers in it. I'll just be using gameplay from the first few hours of the game. Now let's start by going over the gameplay. Right from the start of the game, the controls are tight and responsive. Moving Samus around the screen feels better than it ever has before. Just like in Samus Returns, you can aim in any direction, counter enemies before they hit you, and new to this game, you can slide under small spaces, which is probably my new favorite move. Sliding feels so natural, and it'll be hard to go back to the older 2D Metroid games after getting used to it. Even just this one new move enhances the gameplay so much and adds to the overall smooth movement system. The 60 FPS frame rate helps a lot too. It all adds up to be one of the best gameplay experiences of the past couple of years. It's so much fun just moving around in this world, and the combat and exploration are made even better by the controls. As you progress further into the game, you'll find plenty of new power-ups and upgrades. Each new power-up feels important and useful, and using them in combination feels great. The controls can get pretty complex near the end of the game, but it still always feels like you're in complete control of Samus's actions. The pacing is also really good, so you constantly feel like you're making progress and getting new abilities. One change I absolutely love is that you don't get the morph ball right away as you usually would. This makes you appreciate the morph ball so much more and keeps the early hours of the game interesting. Metroid Dread is a lot less linear than games like Metroid Fusion. There's much less direction and you'll have to do a lot of exploring to figure out where you're supposed to go. This could feel frustrating to some players, and I've seen some people online get annoyed at how often they get stuck. Maybe I just got lucky, but I never got stuck for very long, and always managed to find a way forward. It's probably because I played all the previous 2D Metroid games before this one, but the level design was always able to guide me where I needed to go, while still giving me the satisfaction of figuring it out for myself. I think this game has the perfect balance of exploration and linear storytelling, and it makes the replayability really high as well. The combat is another area where this game shines, with great enemy design and plenty of options to take down the hostile aliens surrounding you. The melee counter has been improved a lot since its appearance in Samus Returns. You no longer have to stay completely still to pull off a counter, and if you do it while running, it'll become a melee attack as well. This keeps the gameplay from becoming a stop and start experience, and allows you to keep moving while in combat. I also appreciate how not every enemy will instantly charge you, so you can't rely too heavily on the melee counter to save you. And being able to aim in a full 360 degrees will always be amazing. As you become more powerful, the combat system opens up and allows for some really creative ways to attack enemies. The tight controls and improved combat create a super satisfying flow of gameplay that rewards precision and skill. The boss fights are one of the biggest highlights of the entire game. These cinematic and intense fights are super tough and will take multiple attempts to beat, but I never got frustrated because the boss design is so excellent. Every time I died, I knew exactly what I did wrong and how to improve on my next try. The patterns of attack are really great and tons of fun to learn how to dodge and strike back. I'll only show the first boss fight here since discovering the many different bosses is one of the best parts of the game. Countering a boss at the right time will start these amazingly epic sequences where you can deal lots of damage. Successfully pulling these off feels amazing. The cutscenes are also incredible and lead to some of Samus's most heroic moments in the whole franchise. The whole game is pretty difficult, but I love a good challenge in games as long as I feel like it's fair and respects your time, and Dread does exactly that. Checkpoints are pretty generous, and enemies rarely attack in cheap or frustrating ways. I can see how this game might be a little too hard for some players, but for me it was the perfect level of difficulty. Speaking of difficulty, let's talk about the Emmys. These giant scary robots are hunting you constantly once you enter one of their sections, and trying to escape is thrilling. The best part about this is that these aren't linear chases. The AI is so good that these feel like dynamic moments that evolve as you play through them. You'll have to be quick and smart to avoid getting caught, but if you do get caught, you get a very small chance to counter and escape. This counter is such a small opportunity and it's nearly impossible to get right consistently, which I love. To compare it to Zelda for a little bit, the Guardians in Breath of the Wild were really scary at first, but once you learn how to parry their laser blasts, they become a lot less threatening. but the enemy are always terrifying no matter how far you are in the game, since you know you probably won't be able to escape if you get caught. But the few times you do manage to counter their deadly attacks feels like a genuine triumph, and fills you with adrenaline as you try to run away. You'll have to stay aware of your surroundings at all times if you want to survive on this planet. The visuals of Planet ZDR are just stunning. The environments are all unique and interesting with gorgeous views in the background. The lighting is also really amazing, giving the world a sense of realism and atmosphere. I won't spoil the later areas of the game, but the visuals of the world get better and better the more you play. From the cool caves of Artaria to the lava-filled caverns of Kataris, Metroid Dread always looks absolutely incredible. This game is proof that 2D games can look just as good as 3D games. But exploring each new area isn't the only thing motivating you to keep moving forward. The story is also really great, with lots of twists and turns that keep you invested all the way to the credits. I can't talk much about anything without getting into spoilers, so just know that the story is well worth the 19-year wait. This game is the conclusion of the storyline that was started all the way back in 1986, and it totally lives up to that, delivering tons of epic moments that fans will love. I won't show anything, but the final boss in particular is just fantastic, and easily becomes one of my favorite final bosses of all time. The music is also amazing, with plenty of atmospheric tracks for each section of the game. The songs aren't as catchy as previous Metroid games, but I'm okay with that because the music serves the game really well and draws you into the world. The Emmy chase music in particular is really great and gives you tons of panic and anxiety as you try to escape. The whole game has the polish we've come to expect from Nintendo games, and I think it even goes beyond it in many cases. It took me around 7.5 hours to beat the main story, and then I went back and collected all the items to get 100%, which took me around 13 hours. 2D Metroid games have never been super long or drawn out adventures, and I think this is a really good length for the game. As I mentioned earlier, the replayability of this game is insanely high, and I know I'll be playing through it again and again for years. The Metroidvania genre of video games has continued to evolve and improve since Samus was last on the scene, and I was worried that Metroid might get left behind. But Metroid Dread proves that Samus can keep up with all the competition, and even beat them in many different ways. This game easily goes into the video game Hall of Fame alongside legendary titles like Super Metroid and Metroid Prime. Dread is one of the best Nintendo games I've played in years, and I know it'll become a classic in no time. I absolutely loved all the previous 2D Metroid games, but I can now say that Metroid Dread is my new favorite of the 2D series, as well as one of my favorite Metroidvanias of all time. This game was really worth the wait, and if you've never experienced a Metroid game before, there's no better time to jump in than right now. And if you're already a Metroid fan or you're already playing Dread, what do you think about it? Did it live up to the hype for you or not? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see ya in the next one.